I'm Terry Shepard. Being a confident podcast guest is a skill that can be learned. And that's why I wrote How to Become a Dynamic Podcast Guest and Sell Stuff. It's a sweet and short primer that teaches you about the gear, the appearance, and the messaging that can grab and hold today's micro attention spans and motivate your listeners to take action. How to Become a Dynamic Podcast Guest and Sell Stuff. The digital version is just $1.99 at Amazon. Grab your copy today and sell more books tomorrow.
In Conversation with Terry Shepard, award-winning broadcaster, narrator, and author. A deep dive into the writer's craft with the artists and support systems who create the stories we love.
What happens when the person you once trusted most becomes the architect of your worst nightmare? Today's guest, Liz Lazarus, has built a reputation for crafting high-stakes psychological and legal thrillers that don't just entertain, they linger. Her stories pulse with tension, driven by emotionally complex heroines forced to navigate impossible choices, and grounded in realism that makes every twist feel uncomfortably close to home. Her latest novel, Dawn Before Darkness, may be her most unsettling yet. It follows Dawn Smith, a veterinary technician whose decision to end a relationship spirals into a chilling descent. What begins as a suspicion quickly escalates into stalking, legal manipulation, and a terrifying battle for control. When her ex weaponizes the court system itself, threatening not just her safety, but her mother's future, Dawn is pushed into an unthinkable corner, forced to choose between her freedom and her family. Liz Lazarus, it's great to be with you. Thanks for the conversation.
Well, thank you, though. What an intro. I want to record that and put it everywhere. That was great. Thank you.
How did a left-brain engineer and one-time corporate executive become a writer?
I say I was the most reluctant author you'll probably meet. I went to Georgia Tech, got an engineering degree, spent 20 years at General Electric. I did some healthcare startups, joined a consulting firm. And this first book that I wrote, not Dawn Before Darkness, but Free of Malice, my first novel, just would not leave me alone. And the best way I can describe it is a calling. And I ignored it for a while. The idea came in college. It was based on a real event that happened in my life. And I ignored the calling until I ran out of things to do on my bucket list. And it was either run a marathon or write this book. And I thought writing the book would be easier. Turns out it was not. But that's what got the whole thing started.
Dawn Before Darkness feels frighteningly real, especially with programs like The Bad Guardian giving us nightmares on Netflix right now. How much of reality is there in that story?
It was uncanny. I just watched The Bad Guardian that stars Melissa Joan Hart. And so many things that happened in that movie are realistic because they happened to me. So though Dawn Before Darkness is fiction, what happens to the main character, Dawn, and her mother can happen. And I spent about 10 years, I spent thousands of dollars getting my mother out of a guardianship.
What did you want readers to understand about the psychological toll of being targeted and not believed?
I think it was the helplessness. And I consider myself a fairly accomplished woman. Engineering degree, I got my MBA from Northwestern. I ran a $140 million business. Didn't consider myself to be any fool. And the legal system was so ensnarling. We had so many surprises, so many curveballs, that every time I tried to do something, I would get another curveball. And it was interesting because my husband said to me as he read the book, and he did say it's my best one yet, and I think it is. He's like, give Dawn a break. She keeps getting beat up. And he's like, give her a break. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't get one. And I've had early readers say it's frustrating, like they want to throw the book out because it's so frustrating. My bad guy is not violent per se. He's not physically abusive, but he's always a step ahead of her. And like you said, he manipulates the legal system to the point where she's always on her heels.
Your books are well known for their pacing and twist endings. How do you structure a story to maintain that level of suspense throughout?
It's good editing. Frankly, my first editor said, are we advancing the story? And we cut my first book from 120,000 words down to 90. And now I know, target 80 to 90,000 words. But I think it's good editing. It's now with 4 books under my belt, I can almost hear my editors in my head when I'm writing about what to cut. And an interesting tip for other authors, if they want it, is I have found that almost every chapter, if I cut the last paragraph, I do a better job with pacing.
Liz Lazarus is our special guest. We're talking about her latest, Dawn Before Darkness. Her website is Liz Lazarus, Lazarus, lizlazarus.com. How did the path from corporate life to writing influence your voice as a storyteller?
I think the book came at the right time. I put the first one off for so many years. It was so old that I had my character working on a VHS exercise tape, and I had to change it to a DVD. It was so old. It was so dated. But I think with the maturity of waiting to be a writer in my second half of my life, I've just got more judgment, more wisdom. And it doesn't mean that what I learned in business doesn't help me in the PR side of things. So there's the creative brain that writes and does the storytelling, and there's the business brain that thinks about the marketing and the publishing and that side of the world.
Marketing is one area that is beyond the creative capacity for many authors. How are you approaching that with Dawn Before Darkness?
Well, I have help for starters, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. And you've met Kim, my publicist, so we're doing some podcasts. I'm going to do some book boxes, which I did not do before, to Instagram bloggers, doing more on Goodreads. And for this book, like the first one, we put it on NetGalley, so early readers can review it. And I'm pleased to say we just got the 30th review at 4.6 stars. And the only really bad feedback so far has been that the legal system, the legal case didn't seem realistic. And I'm just like, oh, if you only knew. Dawn had it easy compared to what I had. So it can happen.
What do your readers say they love most about your writing?
I'm not too flowery. I do a lot of dialogue, so it goes fast. They like the twist. And I guess I should go back. The thing they like the most is the education, because I do try to educate while I entertain. And in this one, you'll learn about stalking and what you can do and what works and what doesn't work. I found out that restraining orders really don't help a lot, unfortunately. They'll find out about probate court, guardianships and conservatorships, and every book has had a social theme. So while I entertain, I try to educate.
Stalking is one dimension you cover in this story. What is your advice for people who think they are being stalked?
At the beginning of the book, I have some resources to reach out to because thankfully I was never stalked. So I did interview 10 women who had stalkers. My main character, Dawn, is based on a friend who had a stalker. And so she inspired the idea of a stalker story. And then I put the word out on Facebook of I'd like to interview anyone else who's willing to talk to me about having a stalker. And I had more offers than I expected. And so I think the resources are go look for the ones online. There's Spark, which is a group that advises about what to do. And all of them had a recurring theme that they weren't always taken seriously, or that their stalker was clever enough to go just to the limit so that the law couldn't really do much. And that happens to Dawn. And that the restraining orders, unless they do something super egregious, it's really hard to get this person off your back. And my friend Dawn had a guy for years who went after her.
Author Liz Lazarus is our guest. Let's talk about process. How do you write?
I bet you can guess. I am a plotter. I am not a pantser. I do not write by the seat of my pants. I have to know the protagonist, the antagonist, the main characters. I have to know my beginning that I want to pull people in. I definitely have to know my twist ending. And I put everything in Excel, lots of rows, lots of columns, color-coded, what I have to follow back with to tie up any loose ends. So very structured.
Do your characters ever try to take you places where the plot you've created doesn't necessarily want to go?
That happened twice. It happened in my third book, where I was not planning for my Juliana character to fire the bartender. But what he did was so egregious, she fired him. And I talk about, it's almost like I'm watching a movie and taking notes when I write. Like they're doing what they're supposed to do because it's plotted, but I did not expect that. So then I had to go back and say, okay, now what do I do? Because he's no longer in the scene because she fired him, as she should have. And then in this book, I changed a little bit of the ending based on what was really happening in my legal case. And it made it stronger. It added another twist. And I thought, can that work? And it worked. So it was a second motivation for the bad guy, which I'll leave it at that because I don't want to give things away. But usually people follow what I've outlined, usually.
Liz Lazarus is our special guest. LizLazarus.com is her website. One of the things I enjoyed most about Dawn Before Darkness is the dialogue. How did you learn to write conversation so well?
Oh, I don't know. Living. All right. I don't know. Living. And yeah, you have to say what you think people will say and do. My two pet peeves about any novel I read is the twist has to be earned. It can't be a twist that nobody would have ever guessed. And people have to behave like normal people do. And so the dialogue has to be what normal people say and do.
A condition common to many authors is the continual presence of the story you're creating in your consciousness, even when you're not in front of the keyboard. Does that happen to you?
For sure. And I'll go for walks with my husband, and I'm already plotting my fifth one, which I can't believe. And I'll talk to him about what I'm thinking, and I confuse him with the characters. So now we've named people so that I'm not confusing him. And he's patient because this isn't about him understanding what I'm going to plot and write. This is more about me just hashing it out as I walk. And yeah, I'm always thinking about it.
You grew up in a household of a business owner. You went to a left-brain school. How did you find your right brain?
It was always there. I have to say, my grandfather was an author. He wrote a children's book called Follow My Leader, which came out in the 50s, and it's still in print today, about a little boy who's blinded by a firecracker. So I guess it's in my genes. And then I was editor of my high school newspaper. I thought about going into journalism, and my father encouraged me to go into engineering. So I did. So I guess this is what was always in me finally coming out a little bit. Everybody has a book in them, don't they? Everybody does. It's just a question of whether or not you do it. And people call me when they're thinking about writing a book. And I tell you, Terry, I try to talk them out of it. Not because of the competition, but because I'm like, it is grueling. It's hard. Every step is hard. But if it's in you and it's a calling, then the best thing you can do is get a mentor, get help. And because there's so many things in the publishing world that don't follow the business world that I was learning constantly about, oh, I didn't expect that. Even the way the agents have so many people querying them, 200 plus queries a day. It's so difficult.
We are living in a time where it feels like there is one challenge after another. And when we choose to write, we become immersed in this world of rejection. How do you find resilience to keep going when things get tough?
And I'd say it's my fans that have read the other books because they tell me they're good. I always say you can't tell if your baby's ugly, and you can't. And your good friends will tell you the truth usually. But when strangers will tell me the book is good, the book on NetGalley right now is strangers reading it. And when they're giving it 4 or 5 stars, and there's a 1 or 2 in there too, but then you know your book is good, even if you're not getting an agent to buy it, or even if you get a couple bad reviews. In aggregate, you know it's good.
How has your writing evolved over the course of these books that you've created?
I've learned that I use that too much. I've learned my bad habits, and I try to stay away from my bad habits. I think the outlining has always stayed the same, and I don't write in order, so that has not changed. Because when I outline, I don't have to. And I use a lot of feedback. So like interviewing the 10 women who had stalkers gave me content. So a lot of what gives me content is interviewing people, talking to people. So I don't really get the writer's block from the standpoint that I can always go on to a different chapter or a different interview with somebody and get the content I need to keep writing. I better knock on wood because I'm going to get not a writer's block now that I just said that, right?
I'm fascinated by your comment that you can write out of order. How does that work?
I guess because if I know the outline, I can write different pieces. I'd like to more or less write in order, but I don't always have to. If I get stuck in one part, like with this story, Dawn is a vet tech. So I could go write the vet stories. And I had a fantastic woman, Becky Smith, hence the Smith of Dawn, help me with the vet stories because she's a real vet tech. And she told me the things that are most important to her and her peers that animal owners should know. And so I could do those at any time. And then I intersperse them throughout the book. And every animal story in the book has a reason for being in there. It comes full circle in Dawn's legal case.
We're talking with author Liz Lazarus. Her website is LizLazarus.com. You're in the middle of marketing Dawn Before Darkness. Are you working on book 5?
I don't do a good job of writing the next one when I'm doing the current one, the PR for the current one. And I know that's probably not a good practice, so I don't advocate it for anybody. But once it's done, then I'll get more serious about the 5th one. And all my books have colors. This one's purple. The next one will be green. It has to do with greed and money. And I got to think of what the title is because they all have a similar kind of resonance, or not onomatopoeia, is that the right word? Of dawn before darkness, free of malice, shades of silence, plea for justice. So I've got to think of what the right title is that's going to have money or greed or something in it for the next one.
What do you hope people will take away from their encounter with Dawn Before Darkness?
Truly, because this was a passion project for me, it's to think about their own family situation. And I say this, if anyone and everyone has parents and siblings, most everyone does, if they haven't thought about what they want their will to be, or who they want to be their power of attorney or their personal representative, and the family hasn't sat down and talked through that, I hope this is a cautionary tale. Because part of what happened to me and what happens to Dawn is that nobody really thinks about it till it's too late. And in my personal case, my mom was not really competent to sign papers that she signed. And I didn't think about it till it had already been done. And so it's to get with your family, get with your parents, get with your siblings, understand their wishes, document them legally, and make sure everybody is on board with the plan, whether you like it or not. And I don't think families do that enough. Nobody wants to think about the end, but as my husband says, none of us are getting out of here alive. And get your affairs in order so there's not strife later about what the wishes are.
You've done so many interviews over the course of your writing career. Is there a question you've never been asked that you wish you had?
That's a great question. I think everybody always covers how to get the book. I think maybe people don't realize how important reviews and referrals are, because for an author, that to me is the best way to sell a book. So if you read the book and you don't think to write a review or you don't think to post about it, I wish you would. It really does help an author.
The best gift you can give to those of us who write is a review that might inspire someone else to pick up the book. The website is lizlazarus.com. We've been talking about Dawn Before Darkness with its creator, our special guest, Liz Lazarus. This has been fantastic, Liz. Thanks so much for the conversation.
You are a great interview. I'll write a 5th book just so I can come back and talk to you.
In Conversation with Terry Shepard is a copyrighted presentation. All rights reserved. I'm Lisa Davis. Join Terry Shepard next time in Conversation.